Meet Puff Daddy. First was accused of sexual harassment by his former personal chef Cindy Ruela in 2017. The lawsuit was settled outside of court 2 years later. The allegations against the disgraced mogul didn't gain steam until late 2023. In March, his mansions across the U.S. were raided by Homeland Security, involving sex workers, hidden cameras, and illegal drugs. The so-called freak-off parties hosted in them were a breeding ground for his own emotional, physical, and verbal abuse of victims, according to indictments. Stick around as EP Television bring you the full history of Puff Daddy. Sean John Combs, also known by his stage name Diddy, formerly Puff Daddy and P. Diddy, is an American rapper, record producer, and record executive. A three-time Grammy Award winner, he is credited with the discovery and development of artists including the Notorious B.I.G., Mary J. Blige, and Usher. Born in Harlem, New York, United States, on November 4, 1969, age 54 years in 2024. Children: King Combs, Justin Dior Combs, Chance Combs, Jesse James Combs, Delilah Star Combs. Full name: Sean John Combs. Spouse: Kimberly Porter, 1994 to 2007. She had 4 children for P. Diddy. Puff Daddy remarried to Young Miami, 2021 till date. For decades, Puff Daddy was hailed as hip-hop's jack of all trades. The Grammy-winning rapper, producer, businessman, and executive of Bad Boy Records has launched the careers of some of music's biggest names, sold millions of records, and became known as the host of some of Hollywood's most glamorous bashes, including his annual White Party. But as of Monday, September 16, 2024, Combs is a man behind bars, charged with sex trafficking and racketeering. Abhorrent accusations via a growing heap of lawsuits continue to form against him. His moniker has changed over the years, whether known as Puff Daddy in the 90s, P. Diddy in the aughts, or simply Diddy in recent years. Puff Daddy's inner circle has shifted over the last 3 decades. Law court charges came after Puff Daddy and was arrested at a hotel in New York on Monday, September 16, 2024. What are the charges against him? They relate to sex trafficking, drug possession, and firearms offenses. And now he faces a criminal trial, having been denied bail at $50 million. Specifically, there are 3 charges outlined by the Southern District of New York, SDNY, in a legal indictment: racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, transportation to engage in prostitution. Racketeering conspiracy carries a maximum sentence of life in prison. Sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion has a maximum sentence of life in prison and a mandatory minimum sentence of 15 years in prison. And transportation for purposes of prostitution carries a maximum sentence of 10 years. The indictment alleges Puff Daddy abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct from at least 2008. It claims that Puff Daddy used his employees, resources, and influence in the music industry to create a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other crimes, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Puff Daddy and his defense lawyer Mark Agnifilo in a courtroom sketch. Puff Daddy allegedly induced female victims and male sex workers into drug-fueled sexual performances, dubbed freak-offs, according to the document. The freak-offs, referred to in the document some 16 times, were described as elaborate and produced sex performances that Puff Daddy arranged, directed, masturbated during, and often electronically recorded. Prosecutors allege victims were given controlled substances during the sometimes days-long events to keep them obedient and compliant, and Puff Daddy subjected them to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse to get them to engage. It said Puff Daddy and his victims were so exhausted after the sessions, which sometimes lasted days at a time, that they typically received 4 fluids to recover from the physical exertion and drug use. Around 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant were seized from Combs' homes in Miami and Los Angeles when they were raided in March, the indictment added. It also claims Combs and members of his business engaged in acts of violence, threats of financial and reputational harm, and verbal abuse, including kidnapping and arson when witnesses of his alleged abuse threatened his authority or reputation. What have Combs and his lawyers said? Combs has pleaded not guilty to all charges. After his arrest, his lawyer Mark Agnifilo said he was disappointed with the decision to pursue what we believe is an unjust prosecution of Mr. Combs by the U.S. Attorney's Office. Diddy is an imperfect person but is not criminal, he continued. To his credit, Mr. Combs has been nothing but cooperative with this investigation, and he voluntarily relocated to New York last week in anticipation of these charges. Please reserve your judgment until you have all the facts. These are the acts of an innocent man with nothing to hide, and he looks forward to clearing his name in court. Speaking to journalists after Combs entered his plea, the lawyer added, "I am feeling confident. We're going to go get Puff Daddy out of jail." Subscribe to EP Television to continue seeing histories like this.